For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Mark 8:36. In recent weeks, the news has been public. Cenat stepping away from streaming to focus on his mental health. Headlines called it burnout. Fans called it necessary. Most people assumed rest would bring him back the same. What they didn't see were the moments between the cameras, the gaps, the silence, the parts of him that never returned to the stream. I was part of the production crew during Mafiathon 3, close enough to see what the audience couldn't. This isn't a story about collapse. It's about exchange, about what gets quietly taken while millions are watching something else scroll by. Because when the moment finally came, when something was finished, you won't believe who was in the room. So before you keep listening, ask yourself this: how much is the price of a soul, and who was really watching when it was paid? People still talk about Mafiathon 3 like it was proof that nothing was hidden anymore. A camera always rolling, a chat always watching, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as if visibility itself was a kind of protection. I worked production, not on camera, not talent facing. I was part of the crew that handled resets, lighting adjustments, mic swaps, timing gaps, the unglamorous infrastructure that kept the whole thing from collapsing. The kind of role where you're close enough to hear breathing when the room goes quiet, but invisible enough that no one checks what you're doing. From the outside, it looked chaotic. From the inside, it was rigid, scheduled, controlled. Every minute accounted for. Even the moments people thought were natural had a buffer around them. Nothing just happened. That's what made the first thing I noticed so hard to explain. When the cameras were on, Kai was exactly who people expected him to be. Loud when he needed to be. Focused when the moment demanded it. He carried the room like someone who knew millions were watching and wanted to give them their money's worth. But when the cameras cut, even briefly, he didn't decompress. Most creators do. They reach for their phone, crack a joke, pace, ask how long until the next segment, complain about the lights or the heat or the schedule. Kai didn't do any of that. He sat, not slumped, not tired in the way people recognize, just still, upright, hands resting where they landed, eyes forward, not focused on anything in particular, like someone waiting for a prompt that hadn't arrived yet. The first time I saw it, I brushed it off. Sleep deprivation does strange things. Everyone was running on fumes by then. We all looked wrong in our own ways. The second time, I started paying attention. People don't realize how many gaps exist in a 24/7 stream. Camera swaps, lighting changes, bathroom breaks, moments where audio drops for a few seconds because someone needs to adjust a cable. Those gaps were my responsibility more often than not. Clear the room for 2, someone would say. Kill the backup mic for a second. Give him a minute. Normal instructions. Routine. Necessary. I followed them every time. One night, 2:43 a.m., I remember, because I checked the time on a monitor. We were between segments. The chat thought something was buffering. In reality, the lights were being recalibrated and the main mic was muted. Kai was alone in one of the chairs off to the side. No phone, no headphones, no pacing, just sitting there while people moved around him without speaking. I called his name to let him know we'd be live again in a minute. It took a beat longer than expected for him to look at me. Not confusion, not irritation, just a delay, like the signal had to travel farther than it should have. "Yeah," he said. Normal voice, normal word, but it landed wrong, flat, like it came from memory instead of impulse. I remember thinking very briefly that he looked lighter, not physically, something else. Like the room had lost weight without changing shape. The moment passed. Lights came back up. The stream resumed. The chat exploded like nothing had happened. After that, I started noticing patterns I hadn't been looking for before. The bigger the guest, the quieter Kai became afterward. Not sad, not withdrawn, just reduced. His laughter on camera still hit the right beats, but off camera it didn't echo. It stopped the moment it was no longer needed. Between appearances, he didn't rest. He waited. I told myself it was discipline, professionalism, the cost of operating at that level. Everyone likes to pretend success comes with some secret switch you flip once you make it. In reality, it just tightens the schedule. Still, something about it felt organized in a way burnout usually isn't. Burnout is messy. It spills. It shows up as irritation, mistakes, sloppiness. This was clean, efficient, like whatever was happening had learned the system and was working within it. I didn't say anything to anyone. There was nothing concrete to point to. No incident, no breakdown. Just a series of moments no one else seemed to notice because they didn't happen where the audience was looking. And maybe that was the problem. By the end of that first stretch, I stopped thinking of the stream as something that protected him through constant exposure. I started thinking of it as pressure, steady, unrelenting, wearing down whatever couldn't be seen on camera. That was the first night I realized the stream never turning off wasn't keeping anything safe. It was just making sure the damage happened quietly. By the second stretch of Mafiathon, the scale changed. The stream didn't just get louder, it got tighter. Security doubled, schedules narrowed, access lists shortened. The rooms around Kai felt smaller even when they were full. People started moving with purpose, like everyone knew when to enter and when to disappear. I was asked to clear rooms more often. Give them a minute, someone would say. Hold the door. Kill the feed for a second. Optics. None of it sounded strange. That's how big productions work. Privacy isn't the opposite of transparency. It's a requirement. You protect the moment so it can land right when the cameras come back on. What I didn't expect was how similar those moments sounded. Celebrities came through in waves, different faces, different energy, different reasons for being there. But when they leaned in close, when the mics were muted and the doors were shut, their words followed the same shape. I didn't hear full conversations. I heard fragments while holding a door or adjusting a light. Don't forget why you're here. You know what you gotta do. This part's always the hardest. Keep pushing. We're all here to help you get through it. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. It sounded like encouragement. That's what everyone called it. Motivation, support, brotherhood. The kind of language people use when they're trying to keep someone steady under pressure. But the repetition was too clean. Different people shouldn't speak the same way unless they've learned the same script, or they believe they're referencing something already understood. Kai never asked questions. He nodded, smiled, thanked them, said he appreciated it. The words landed like he'd practiced receiving them, like he already knew what was being referenced and didn't need clarification. Afterward, he always sat alone. Same chair, same posture. Hands resting where they landed, eyes forward, waiting. The first few times I told myself this was just how high-level mentorship looked. Successful people talk differently. They carry certainty. They speak in shorthand. Pressure creates language that sounds rehearsed because it has to work fast. But something about the aftermath didn't fit. Encouragement is supposed to lift you. It's supposed to spark something. After these conversations, Kai didn't rise. He settled, like whatever had been said wasn't fuel, but instruction. One night, late, well past midnight, I was told to hold the room after a guest left. The door clicked shut behind them. The lights were low. The backup mic was muted. The chat thought the stream had lagged. Kai didn't move. I checked the time on the monitor out of habit. I remember the number because I wrote it down later, trying to make sense of things I didn't know how to name. He sat there for 9 minutes without speaking, not scrolling, not stretching, not rubbing his face, just sitting, eyes fixed somewhere ahead of him that didn't exist in the room. When I finally told him we were about to go live again, it took him a moment to register I'd spoken. "Yeah," he said, soft, calm, ready, too ready. As we brought the lights back up, His expression returned right on cue. Energy, focus, the version of him the audience expected. The chat exploded like it always did. Nobody noticed the silence that came before. By then, I'd started tracking things without realizing I was tracking them. How long it took him to re-engage after certain visits. How often the same phrases came up. How encouragement never seemed to restore anything. It only flattened it. I questioned myself constantly. Sleep deprivation messes with perception. Stress creates patterns where none exist. When you're looking for something, you'll find it, whether it's real or not. So I tried to stop looking, but the language kept coming. Just remember what you have to do. Keep pushing. We've all been through this part. No one ever explained what this part was. No one ever asked if he was okay. They spoke like they were reminding him of something he'd already agreed to. Something on a timeline they didn't need to outline. What scared me wasn't the words themselves. It was how easily they fit into the schedule. As if these conversations were another segment, another necessary step between appearances. And I was the one making room for them, holding doors, muting feeds, clearing space, doing my job. By the end of that week, I stopped counting how many celebrities came through. I started counting how often Kai sat alone afterward and how the quiet seemed to last a little longer each time. It looked like support. It sounded like motivation, but it felt like preparation. And whatever they were helping him get through, it didn't feel like it was for his benefit. By the middle of Mafiathon 3, the language changed. It wasn't dramatic. No announcements, no speeches, just small shifts in phrasing that felt borrowed at first, then familiar, then internal. Kai started saying the same things I'd heard others say to him, only now he said them without anyone prompting him. I gotta lock in. It's part of the journey. I just need to get through this. He said it calmly, not like someone convincing himself, like someone stating a schedule. Around the same time, the production calendar began bending around, a moment no one named. People spoke in future tense, without details. After that, things ease up. Once we're past this is the last hard part. No one explained what that was. No one asked. The assumption was shared so casually it felt rude to interrupt it. Whatever was coming had already been agreed upon somewhere I hadn't been. Kai stopped pushing back on anything. If someone suggested a delay, he nodded. If someone asked him to stay seated a little longer, he stayed. If someone told him a segment needed more intensity, he delivered it, then returned to stillness, like it was a resting position. Off camera, his presence kept thinning. That's the only way I know how to describe it. He was polite, grateful, present in the technical sense, but nothing inside him argued anymore. There was no friction, no resistance. He didn't complain about the hours. He didn't question the pace. He didn't even ask how much longer we had left. He waited. The chair became a constant. Same spot, same posture. Hands resting loosely, like he'd placed them there on purpose and forgotten why. When someone spoke to him, there was still that delay, a half second where his eyes had to travel back before the response arrived. I started dreading those moments more than the long nights. Silence can be loud when it's shared, but this wasn't shared. It felt private, like the room wasn't supposed to notice it. I tried to rationalize it. Everyone at that level develops a different relationship with pressure. You don't survive without compartmentalizing. You don't stay focused without narrowing yourself down to what's necessary. But this felt like narrowing past the point of usefulness. One evening, late again, I was adjusting a light when Kai spoke without looking at anyone. I didn't think it would feel like this, he said. Not emotional, just observational. I paused, waiting for someone else to answer. No one did. The room held its breath in a way rooms shouldn't. Then someone stepped closer, quiet, confident. That's how you know you're doing it right, they said. Everyone goes through this part. Kai nodded. Whatever hesitation had surfaced disappeared as quickly as it came, like a reflex corrected before it could complete itself. That was the moment it stopped feeling accidental. Up until then, I'd been telling myself this was a side effect of intensity, of growth, of living inside a camera for weeks without reprieve. But intensity burns hot. Growth stretches. This was something else. This was alignment. Everything around him began moving in the same direction. The schedule, the conversations, the way people spoke to him, the way he spoke to himself. It all pointed forward, towards something just out of frame, and he was walking toward it willingly. My discomfort shifted into something heavier. Responsibility, maybe, or recognition. I thought about saying something, but to who? There was no emergency, no breakdown, no violation of rules. The stream was thriving. The numbers were climbing. From the outside, everything was working exactly as intended. I was the only one counting the quiet. I noticed how long he stayed seated after certain conversations, how his responses grew shorter, more precise, how encouragement no longer sparked anything. It simply settled, like dust finding a surface that had been waiting for it. It didn't feel like something was being taken from him anymore. It felt like something was being prepared to leave. By then, production confirmed the next major moment on the schedule. Not publicly, just internally. A shift, a reset, something symbolic. Everyone treated it like a relief point, like once it happened, the pressure would release. Kai didn't react when he was told. He just nodded. That night, as I cleared the room one more time and muted the feed for another brief reset, I realized I wasn't watching someone lose control. I was watching someone complete a process. Whatever this was didn't need force anymore. It didn't need persuasion or pressure or convincing words. The reminders had done their job. The language had settled in. The path had been cleared. He was moving toward it on his own. And the closer he got, the quieter everything became. Like the room already knew it was about to be finished. By then, it was clear this wasn't about how much he could give. It was about how little of him would be left when it was over. The notification came through before the cameras caught it. Someone near the monitors said the number out loud, like they didn't trust it to be real until it was spoken. 1 million. The room reacted instantly. Chairs scraping back, voices rising, hands clapping shoulders. A few people jumped up. Someone shouted his name. A chant tried to start and almost worked. The cameras loved it. Lights flared brighter. The chat surged so fast the feed stuttered. Emojis stacked on top of each other until they blurred into color. From the outside, it looked like a release, the kind of moment people imagine carrying you for years. Kai smiled. He nodded. He said thank you. That was it. No pause. No breath caught in his chest. No shift in his posture like something heavy had finally been set down. He didn't step forward into the noise or get pulled into it. He let it wash past him, hands loose at his sides, expression already settling back into place. The room was loud enough to shake the floor. He felt distant inside it. When the celebration burned out, and it did quickly, like all high-energy moments do, people drifted back to their places. Conversations restarted. Someone asked about the next segment. Production began resetting lights like nothing irreversible had just happened. Kai returned to the chair. The same one, the same position. Hands resting where they landed. The room felt colder once the noise left, like sound had been holding something together that silence couldn't. I was nearby, adjusting a light, when he looked up. Not suddenly, not urgently, just enough. Our eyes met for a second longer than necessary. There was no panic in his expression, no fear. What passed between us felt quieter than that, like recognition, like he was checking whether I had noticed the same thing he had, that the moment everyone else celebrated had arrived empty. Something about his gaze felt lighter than before, and not in a good way. Like weight had been removed without resistance. Like a room after furniture is taken out and you don't realize how much it shaped the space until it's gone. No one else reacted. No one else slowed down. The chat kept scrolling. The milestone slid into the schedule like another completed task. I went back to my work, hands moving automatically, but my chest felt tight in a way that didn't match the moment. Whatever that celebration was supposed to give him, whatever people spend years chasing, it didn't reach him. And when he finally looked away, I had the uneasy thought that it hadn't just missed its timing, it had arrived too late. I reported in for the last few days of Mafiathon 3 the same way I had every other shift, badge scanned, headset on, checklist in hand. But the place felt different, not quieter exactly, more settled, like the work had narrowed to a short list and everyone knew what was left on it. I was assigned to set up PCs and sound casings in one of the side rooms. Routine, cables, mounts, test tones. As I walked down the hallway, I passed a room with the door partially open. Inside, Kai was seated, surrounded by a small group. No cameras pointed at him. No chatter. Just bodies positioned carefully around a chair. He didn't look tired. He looked reluctant. His head was lowered slightly, hands resting where they'd landed, shoulders still. Not fear, not panic, resignation. Like someone who understands what's next and doesn't want to move toward it, but knows they will. I stopped without meaning to, long enough to see his eyes lift, long enough for us to share a look that didn't ask a question. It acknowledged one. Someone inside the room noticed me watching. They met my eyes, stepped forward, and closed the door. No words, no warning, just removal. That was the last clear look I got. I went to my position and started working. Sound casing first, levels checked. The mood outside that room felt eager in a way that made my chest tighten, focused, anticipatory. People moved like they were preparing for an arrival, not a segment. When LeBron came in, it wasn't dramatic. No announcement, no pause in the schedule. He was there, and the room adjusted around him the way rooms do when gravity enters. I didn't see the cut itself from where I stood. I didn't need to. What I did see was what came after. Hair collected carefully, not swept, not discarded, bagged, sealed, handed off, taken away. Everyone involved seemed to agree it had a destination. No one said where, no one needed to. The stream resumed, the chat erupted. Emojis and applause and jokes scrolled so fast the screen looked like movement instead of words. From the outside, it was a moment. From where I stood, it was completion. When my shift ended, I was paid, thanked, and not scheduled again. It didn't feel like being fired. It felt like being finished. I didn't go back to the streaming community after that. Not because I was angry, because I couldn't unsee the pattern. Young people chasing energy without understanding what gathers when enough attention is concentrated in one place. Rooms filled with hunger and exhaustion and substances meant to keep the pace. Drugs, alcohol, noise, applause, spirits of all kinds, drawn together and fed without anyone agreeing on what they were feeding. People call it grind culture. I started thinking of it as something older. Months passed, life moved on, clips circulated, numbers climbed. Kai appeared on television, at the Streamer Awards, polished, successful, exactly where people expected him to be. And then I saw it, the look, calm, controlled, empty. The same look I'd seen during Mafiathon, when the cameras were down and the rooms were quiet, the same absence, now visible to everyone at once. The chat slowed, comment sections filled with words like burnout and mature and different. People trying to name something without touching it. That was when I understood I hadn't imagined any of it. They could see it now too. People ask me when it happened. I think that's the wrong question. By the time the haircut happened, whatever was leaving had already agreed to go. The stream never stopped. Something else just didn't come all the way back. If you were watching then, you probably cheered. I don't blame you. The system works because everyone does what they're supposed to do, including me. If this story made you pause, if you noticed something you hadn't before, like the video so more people hear it, comment what you think happened in those rooms, and subscribe if you want to keep seeing the moments that slip past the camera when everyone else is watching something else.